I audited the night photography walk she said was canceled. It started with a calendar invite that deleted itself. Night photo walk 21/00/23:30, my wife's shared account announced, then vanished. I wouldn't have noticed if Tessa hadn't also texted, class canceled, rain. I'll edit at home. Outside, clear and windless. It's fine, she said, shrugging into a hoodie and putting her camera on the table as if to prove the point. I'll sort the backlog. Maybe tonight we finally decide which photos to print for the hallway. We've been married 8 years. Night photography arrived in January and stayed. At 7, while she edited at the dining table, my phone lit up with a notification from a neighborhood account I barely use. Night photo walk, last-minute open slots, the message read, tagged with the instructor's handle. Beneath it, a photo of the exact bridge where Tessa took me on our second date, when we tried to make the river sound like it had secrets we could handle. Clear skis, the caption added. Bring fast glass. I wrote an email to the organizer in the tone I reserve for museum donors and airline agents. Gratitude braided to ambition. Curious observer, I typed in the subject, as if curiosity were a credential. 10 minutes later, Armin, the instructor, replied with a link and a note. You can audit from the back of the group. We talk, we walk, the city does the rest. I told Tessa I had to drop by the office to sign a contract for the exhibit I'm curating on fairy history. The board wants it before morning, I lied. Be back around 11. Okay, she said, and didn't look up. The kitchen looked like a film that was good but not great. I left with the dumb, sincere hope of making it better by entering a room she had not invited me into. She wasn't alone. A man named Milo, less trousers, more enthusiasm, fell into step beside her, carrying a camera the size of a small country and a tote bag full of filters. I recognized him from an early story about the class, back when Tessa still narrated. He remembers everyone's settings, she'd said, amused. He wants to help the world open. We moved as a loose parade across the bridge and down to the river walk. Armin stopped at intervals and asked questions the city answered. How do you make a streetlight less of a lecture and more of a whisper? Where do reflections go when they're neglected? What do you allow the sky to do for you that you stubbornly refuse to do for yourself? An hour in, Armin called for a break and suggested we let the city breathe without us. People drifted to the rail, drank water, texted the kinds of texts you text to the dark when you want to be polite. I stood near a bench and pretended to test a setting I hadn't earned. Tessa walked over because my posture gave me away. She reads my silhouettes better than she reads emails. You audited, she said, not unkindly. Her mouth did the thing it does when she weighs ridiculous against brave and chooses generous. Hello. Hello, I said, relieved to discover my voice could sound like me. Your class wasn't canceled. It was Monday, she said. They added tonight because the river apologized. She looked at my hands. What are you carrying? Questions I should have said out loud before putting on shoes, I said. And the particular stupidity of imagining I could understand a room without being in it. She tilted her head. Why didn't you ask? Because I didn't know how to ask without sounding like a police report, I said. I keep thinking jealousy means something I'm supposed to prosecute. I looked at the water, which excels at not taking sides. Mostly, it means I miss standing next to you while a city happens. She nodded in the small way that means a sentence has landed inside her without hitting anything fragile. Then she said, stay, but be a student. If Armin calls on you, say aperture like you mean it. For the next hour, I did what I was told. I learned to ghost my own shadow. Armin taught me you can ask light for almost anything if you don't require it to be clever. Tessa taught me that someone can be near and still learning something that doesn't automatically involve you, and that your job can be to watch without keeping score. At the viaduct, Armin paired us and said, "Make one photo for someone who will see it later." Tessa framed people waiting for the train. The city did the rest. After class, Armin said, "Envy is attention with bad manners. Fix the manners, keep the attention." "I did," I said, poorly. "You could have said, 'I'm afraid our kitchen is becoming a mezzanine,'" she said, inventing a metaphor we haven't lived yet but probably will. "You could have said, 'Talk to me about the person who makes you laugh while you're adjusting ISO.'" "I could have," I said. "I'm sorry I didn't." She leaned against the car door and looked at the bridge like it needed feedback. "Milo is enthusiastic," she said. "He loves improving things, including people. That's his curriculum. I like being around him for 15% of a night. I do not want to become his project." She paused. "Sometimes the room that isn't our house reminds me I'm still interesting. That does not mean our house has failed. It means I forgot to bring home the part of me that knows that." I put my hands on the roof of the car because I needed to hold something of ours. "I want us to be interesting to each other without needing an audience," I said. "I also want to be allowed to say that sometimes you look more awake under a streetlight than under the kitchen fixture, and that this is not a complaint, just evidence." "That's legal," she said, smiling, and then, "I want you to come next week, not as a spy, as a person with a camera you borrow from me. I want to hear you say aperture like a prayer and shutter like a decision." "I know my way around boats," I said. "I can learn a river." At home, we printed the woman in the yellow coat and taped her above the radiator. The wall demanded conversation. We had it. "I didn't tell you about the extra class," Tessa said, "because saying it out loud made me feel like I was asking permission to be awake. I was. I was just being awake. And I didn't ask because I thought bravery meant not needing to ask," I said. "Turns out bravery means asking so we can decide whether we need to be in the same room. We are both list people. It's not fashionable, but it has kept our house from turning into a museum of postponed sentences." We pulled the notepad from the drawer and wrote, "1. If the calendar invites and uninvites, we talk. 2. If a new room makes us feel more like ourselves, we show the other the door. 3. Jealous means pay attention better, not call the police. 4. If your settings belong to a group chat I'm not in, I'm allowed to be curious without being strategic. 5. Print one photo a week and put it where we eat." We taped the list to the fridge with the library lion magnet. Correct. The next Thursday I didn't lie. I came with a borrowed lens. Milo showed me a lamppost trick. Tessa said, "The ground teaches." My first dozen photos were earnest failures. In one, the bridge looked like a confession. In another, the river forgot to be itself and tried to be our friend. Armin stopped beside me and spoke the sentence he had given others. "Envy is attention with bad manners," he said. "If you love what she's seeing, love the part of you that can see that she's seeing it." I do not have a plot twist to give you. Armin remains humane. Milo remains enthusiastic. The river remains itself. Tessa likes being seen by rooms that do not have our furniture. I like learning which part of what she sees I can be invited to meet. The kitchen is still a mezzanine sometimes, an observation deck over the life we meant to be inhabiting. But the wall above the radiator tells the truth. We are in the city together, even when we are looking in different directions, and the light is more cooperative than either of us deserves. What changed is small. When the calendar blinks, we talk. When envy shows up with its bad manners, we dress it in curiosity and send it to the bridge to cool off. When the river tries to flatter us, we let it fail. When a stranger makes one of us feel interesting, we learn what part of interesting we can bring home. On Monday night, under the kitchen light, we eat cherries and look at the woman in the yellow coat. She is going somewhere. So are we.